Today, we'll be talking about the nothing paradox and why nothing is impossible. Okay? You'll often hear materialists say when you die, there's a void of eternal nothingness. Okay? And today, we'll be explaining the nothing paradox and why in the video game theory, there's no such thing as nothing. There is no such, and whereas the video game theory is basically based off of MBT that standard simulation theory with a mix of various other alternative religions. It's basically my own big theory of everything, basically. And basically, you have a lot of people who fear the idea of dying. We all know I had that big fear, of course, as well a year ago, because I feared when you die, there would be nothing. Okay? There would be nothing. And I'll be talking about all of the things that, ceasing to exist, why it's impossible. Number one is the conversation of energy. So the conversation of energy is basically, the first law of thermodynamics. Which basically means energy cannot be killed, cannot be created or destroyed. Okay? Therefore, by materialist logic, okay, basically, nothing, ceasing to exist violates the law of conservation of energy, which means energy must be destroyed. And of course, the circumstance that, but you become, atoms or plants, worm food, okay? That's basically what it is. But what happens to consciousness? Okay, consciousness is purely energy. Okay, consciousness, mind, soul, all that stuff is purely energy. Okay, and energy cannot be destroyed. That's basically, a law of, the thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed. Okay, it is basically impossible for nothingness to happen based off the laws of thermodynamics. So we already have the first, pillar of nothingness. Now, let's try to, do a thought experiment. Okay? Pause the video if you want to, but try to imagine nothing. Okay? Absolutely nothing. Okay? Try to imagine a world without you. Okay? Try to imagine a world without you. Okay? You just imagine pitch black. Okay, that's what you would imagine. Pitch black. You would imagine pitch black, but the thing is, you wouldn't be able to be aware of it. You would be aware of you existing. Okay, that's basically what they'll say. You'll be aware of there. Okay, but then when we try to describe nothing, okay, you'll always be, you still be describing, okay, something. That's another thing. Okay. Here. Okay. Here. Okay. And, if you go through the nothing paradox, it's basically a rabbit hole. Okay. No matter how many times you try to think of nothing, no matter how many times you try to conceive of something, nothing, there'll always be something. Okay. And then you have other people say that death is like sleep. That's basically the next argument here. Okay. Death is basically like sleep. Okay. You still dream when you sleep. So that basically destroys the next argument that, it's just like sleep. But then that means, what about the dreams? Because you can still dream, and you don't remember all your dreams as well. So therefore, as well. And let's not forget, we also have void states, which is basically similar to, what's basically, going to a void state. But again, there are lots of different experiences that go to a void state. Once again, you can easily reach a void state through meditation. You can easily reach a type of void state through meditation, which therefore, further complicates the nothing paradox, out-of-body experiences. Further complicates the, nothing paradox, because nothing as, materialists imagine it, continue, okay, as a paradox. It continues to go around and around as a paradox. And that's why I call it the nothing paradox. Because if you continue to think more and more about nothing, okay, you'll always get something, okay, which further proves that nothingness is just a paradox. It's just a big paradox created by materialists because they can't grasp eternity. They can't grasp, as well. They can't grasp NDEs. They can't grasp out-of-body experiences. So they basically say they're hallucinations, which is basically gonna block your spiritual connection, just like mainstream religion does. Materialism basically blocks your spirituality because basically you cease to exist according to their theories. According to the materialist theories, you cease to exist. You don't exist anymore. Okay, that's the whole thing. There's no you once you die. Which again is basically facts, which basically is false because we talked about the nothing paradox. Nothing is impossible. Okay, nothing is impossible. Okay, and we have the whole misconceptions about death comes from materialism. Comes from materialist view, and of course, religious people who are trying to talk about, hell and heaven. Okay. And I could make a video called Why Hell Doesn't Exist and Why the Devil Doesn't Exist. But, we're talking about the nothing paradox. But yeah. Basically, we have like the wild conversation of energy, which, excuse me, sorry. Okay. But if you try to prove that, even going back to Science Focus, BBC Magazine, okay, nothing is impossible. It is impossible. Okay, quantum mechanics as well also disproves this because everything is in frequency and waves, okay? Everything is in frequency and waves, okay? Everything is in frequencies, everything is in waves, whereas quantum mechanics proves that, everything is in frequency and everything's in waves, yeah. There was a quantum mechanics as well, we touched in this video as well, but it can't be scientifically proven because it can't be rationally proven, okay? Because science is originally about, being rational, okay? But science has been twisted, of course, for, political gain, but modern day, but it could be nothing can be rationally disproven, okay? True nothingness does not exist. True nothingness does not exist. There's no such thing as true nothingness. If we're talking about nothingness like void state, then that is nothingness, okay? Nothingness is basically a void state, which a lot of people can enter in a near-death experience. Entering a void state, you still don't cease to exist. Like, of course, materialism tells you that you do, okay? That you still don't cease to exist. Like materialism tries to tell you, you do, okay? Which further proves that scientific materialism is basically wrong, okay? And that's basically the nothing paradox. That's, nothing paradox, you have quantum mechanics as well. A lot of these things, out-of-body experiences, which disproves, the materialist view of nothing, okay? The nothingness paradox, basically. And there's even a video called, called The Science of Nothing, okay? I didn't watch that video, but yeah, it's basically people trying to figure out the science behind nothing. But there was another video, I don't remember what the channel was called, and basically, it was about if the universe is fine-tuned or something like that, or how the universe works, and basically the person was trying to describe nothing, okay? But he still described, but, you're still describing nothing with something, okay? Which further proves that the paradox, okay, further proves that nothingness is impossible, and further proves that you are an eternal being, and everyone else and everything around you is eternal. Everyone and everything else around you is an eternal being. And the big problem is scientific materialism. The scientific materialism does not, care. And people say, but science does not care about your opinions. But a lot of scientific materialism can be disproven very, very, very easily. Okay? And, of course, nothing is impossible is, of course, Abraham Lincoln's quote as well. But, yeah, the nothing paradox is basically nothingness paradox. Okay? There's no such thing as nothingness, as described by scientific materialism. There's no such thing as nothingness. What this basically is here. So if you ever been, basically, yeah, basically we're explaining nothing. That's basically what this video is. I'm trying to explain nothing. But you can't grasp, and people will just say, well, you just can't grasp the idea of nothing. You can't grasp the idea. That's basically another thing that materialists will say. You can't grasp the idea of nothing, okay? That you're only saying this because you can't imagine a world without you. Which is, of course, further proves that nothingness is a paradox. That nothingness is just one big, massive paradox, and the world is full of paradox. And the same thing with, the Big Bang Theory, okay? The Big Bang Theory says the universe came from nothing, which is inherently not true, which is the materialist view of how the universe was created. Something, of course, was there before the Big Bang. And even scientists realize that, hey, a lot of our theories, the standard model of everything is basically all a bunch of bullshit. Okay, taking them this long to finally realize, or start to realize, that the world, that, materialism may be wrong. Scientific materialism may actually be factually disproven. Just like Flat Earth is scientifically disproven. Flat Earth is scientifically disproven, and most people just laugh at it. Same thing with theories like birds aren't real, okay? Birds aren't real is a completely and utterly stupid theory that says birds are basically government drones, okay? And basically go to nothingness, okay? What is the absence and cessation of life or existence, also worthless as insignificance and unimportance, okay? And basically, there is no such thing as nothingness, and zero does not exist. That's another thing. Zero does not exist, okay? And this is, that's another thing about nothingness. Zero does not exist, because zero, is there. And even then, if you think about it, nothingness is still something, okay? Nothingness is impossible. The paradox is nothing, okay? A space with zero particles. No particle at every place where a particle should be. Physicists call this a vacuum state. And thanks to quantum mechanics, it has some weird properties. Which again, quantum mechanics, if you think about it with a rational view, okay, which if you research quantum mechanics, you will know that quantum mechanics, if you try to explain it by materialist ways, okay, doesn't make any sense, because quantum mechanics has wave function, okay? It's basically proved that the world is in frequencies, okay? It proves that the world is in waves, okay? Does not prove that the world is just material, just matter, and that's it, okay? Which is a completely illogical view of the world. A completely illogical view of the world. And Yeah, in other words, is nothingness impossible? Okay. You cannot, and here's the thing, you can never escape existence, okay? That's what Santa materialists think. When you die, you escape existence, okay? That you escape existence, okay? Dying is just like dying in a video game. Dying in real life is just like dying in a video game. You die, okay? And then, once you die, you create a new character and respawn. That's basically how it is, okay? And, basically like that. You basically respawn like in a video game, like in Minecraft. If you die in Minecraft, you respawn. And there's a difference between nothingness and the vacuum of space. Okay, the vacuum of space, even in the vacuum of space, there's still particles, there's still energy, there's still wavelength, there's still quantum mechanics still happening in space. There's still quantum functions happening in space. So, therefore, even in a place like space, there's still things happening in space, okay? There's still things happening in space. That's the whole thing. There's still things happening in space. There's still quantum mechanics happening in space, okay? Just because there isn't anything physical outside of planets and, stars, of course, and, other lumps of matter in space, doesn't mean, there was no particles in space whatsoever. There's still protons, neutrons, atoms floating around in space that have not, connected to a body or a planet. And of course, energy, wavelength, and frequencies happening all across the universe. Okay. So yes, therefore, non-existence, as of course materialism describes, the world, is basically false. Okay, the way that materialism, says how the world works is basically false. It is basically false, and basically said that something that does not exist seems to be a fallacy since nothing does not exist. Nothing does not exist because it is a paradox. It's a gigantic paradox, and with every paradox, there's holes in it. I think as, in the future, people will, start to realize it. That people will start to realize this as well, since nothing does not exist. Okay, there's no such thing as absence of existence. Okay, there's no such thing as absence of existence. There's only existence. Okay, there's only, as well. Everything therefore must exist. Everything therefore must exist. And it's basically one gigantic paradox. That's all it is. Okay, and you have all these articles like unicorns don't exist because unicorns are created by the mind of humans. Okay, unicorns are fictional. Okay, they're created by the imagination and mind of humans. Okay, that's the whole thing. I'm on this site called Ask Philosophers as well. It's basically a site talking about does everything exist, and it's a pretty good question. Does everything exist? Well, the thing is, they don't really know much about how the mind works, okay? The mind can create memories, memories as well, as well, create, creatures, create characters. For example, in a dream, okay? If we're using dreams, for example, okay? A dream is not real, obviously, okay? In the physical world. A dream is a part of your mind, okay? That's what it is, a part of your mind, and your mind is creating the dream, okay? It is your own personal dream world, and it's your own personal dream world. It's your own personal dream world, basically like that, your own personal dream reality, and basically, you're not, unless you're in a lucid dream, you're not really conscious in the dream. You're not really, doing anything in the dream. Okay, you're not really doing anything. It's basically a set story. Basically, it's a set story, And that's how dreams are. You can interact with dream characters as well. You can interact with dream creatures. But we, are living in a sad video game world. Okay, because you have free will to do whatever you want and stuff like that. So free will therefore determines that the world is basically like a video game. The world, that life is simply just a video game. Okay, that life is simply just a video game, and that's basically how existence is. Okay, you can never, as well. Okay. So yeah, unicorns, they don't exist. They might exist on a different planet, incarnated. That is definitely a possibility. They might exist in another universe as well. They might exist in another universe, but they don't exist in this, at least as we know of, in this universe. Unless some crazy guy, creates unicorns as well. Okay, existence and non-existence are noun, but that doesnn't mean they're meant to afford things of a certain kind. I'm waiting to pose to answer your question, basically, as well. We use existence as exists. Non-existence doesn't exist. To talk, what clearly is what clearly isn't. Since there are clearly bells, and clearly aren't unicorns and square circles. Could equally say that bells exist and unicorns do not. As well. But this is now we're going to the metaphysics, which basically means we get ourselves to the fellows talk about how water we turn accidents into liquids to bring water to boil. We so back and forth to almost be the total without paying attention to where we try to pay attention to it. So if we get into the whole thing of nothingness, the whole thing of those, you get one life, YOLO and stuff like that, because YOLO is actually a trend that everybody was talking about. YOLO, you only live once, hashtag YOLO. Well, of course, we all know, following, if you follow my videos, you'll know that YOLO is basically false. Okay, that's what it is. It's false. And, if you follow my videos, it's basically false. So, and yeah, nothingness and extraterrestrial form. There's also one called phenomenal ontology, which is basically very similar to, being in nothingness. That's very similar. Ontological, ontologics, basically. But if we're talking about, like, the materialist version of nothingness, well, it violates, of course, the first law of thermodynamics that, it's basically virtually impossible to escape existence, okay? That's why they have been unable to crack with consciousness. That's why they don't understand quantum mechanics. Okay? Because consciousness is essentially just energy. That's all it is. Consciousness. Okay? Mind is energy as well. All of this stuff is energy. Okay? Everything in the universe is energy. Okay? And energy always... And I could also do another video called Reincarnation Proven and, by, the first law of thermodynamics, which energy does not die and change its form, which proves that, that reincarnation is definitely, most likely, very probable and very real. Because energy does not die, it changes form. That's what it says on the first law of thermodynamics. You can even look it up on Google. It says, energy does not die, it only changes form. Same thing with death. Okay, death is basically, energy that's simply changing form, basically. Okay, that's what it is. It is basically just energy changing form, changing, and yeah, that's basically how it is. Okay. Yeah. But if you go into the, and the reason why, atheism is wrong is, there's also nothingness. Non-existence or nothingness is also called eternal oblivion. Okay, that's also what it's called. Okay. And this concept is mostly associated with religious skepticism, secular humanism, and atheism. Basically, it is mostly associated with those people who are against religion, I'm going to say, and I do not like religion. I'm not a big fan of religion. Okay, I do not like it at all. Religion is just one, you have a sky, be in the sky, watching every move, telling what it can't do, following all these rules, and, as well. If you, don't follow his rules, you go to a total torture, as well. Okay. But, the whole thing, if we're talking about, a total oblivion, the eternal void of nothingness that, atheists believe in is basically false, because, there is no such thing as nothingness. It's, it's an impossibility. It's a paradox, okay? It's basically a big, large paradox. It's basically an impossibility, and that's basically how it is, okay? And here is also the last sense to go when you die. That's what it says here. Here is the last sense to go. Go according, to the materialist world. But again, they view the world in only material and don't try to explain any of the metaphysical parts of, reality. They don't, don't, do anything to try to explain near experiences and stuff like that, okay? Yeah. Oh yeah, what happens to the soul? That's Buddhism. Soul 40 days after death. That's basically Buddhism, okay? And we can talk about what happens after death. That'll be a pretty interesting topic. We covered it a bit in the first video, okay? In this series, we covered it in the first video, but talking about exactly what happens is a very, 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 interesting idea. I will be open to talk about it as well. I will be open, definitely, to talk about it as well. But, my theory, of course, my theory, if anyone comments, does not have anything to do with, mysticism. It doesn't have anything to do with, New Age. Which people, you have people come here and think it's New Age. Think it's New Age, think it's, that stuff as well. Which again, it is this entire series has nothing to do with New Age at all. Nothing to do with the New Age religion. Nothing to do with the New Age religion. And it's basically a widespread secular misunderstanding of death. It is a misunderstanding. That's what it is. Okay, this is by naturalism.org. Okay, it is a misunderstanding because because we all know, and there's a lot of people who are scared of something that doesn't exist. Okay, so nothing, scared of a total nothingness after death. You're scared of something that is not going to happen. Okay, I was scared of something that until I realized that, when you think of logic and reason, and you think of the nothing paradox, okay, it further proves that you're eternal, okay? And there's a lot of people who lose sleep over this because they get trapped in a materialist mindset. They get trapped in a materialist mindset, and that's the big problem. They don't, And I talked to people who were atheists before, and I told them that, it makes sense. This makes sense because there is no such thing as an eternal void of nothingness, as it's basically a paradox. It's basically, there's no such thing as eternal nothingness. There's no such thing as eternal nothingness, as I explained in this video. Okay. And you see, NDEs of absolute nothingness. Greeted man, as well. There's a difference between, the atheist view of nothingness, and, as well. The atheist view of nothingness. And, of course, a void state, which is considered nothingness as well. A void state is also considered nothingness as well. And basically, it's being transported into a void state. Like, meditation is a void state. Basically, meditation is a void state. That's what it is. Okay. And we have the next thing. We'll talk about, the whole argument that atheists will use that, what is it like that When you die, it's what it's like before you're born. Let's, we could talk about that. We'll definitely get tired. That's what it is. That will have a whole video in itself. Okay, a whole video in itself. Okay. Basically, a whole video in itself we can make about, eternal, or what happens before you're born. What does happen. That's to have a whole video upon itself. Which will be a very interesting one to talk about. What happened before you're born, okay? Because, most people, when they talk about entities, they don't ever talk about before you're born. They always talk about after, you die, what happens. But I don't know what the biggest mysteries is. What happens before you're born. That'll be definitely a topic to talk about, okay? And there's another article. It's silly to be afraid of being dead, because there is. Okay? It is silly, because you're eternal. That's basically how it is. You're eternal. You're eternal being. You're eternal being, basically, And the Duffing Paradox proves that you're eternal. Proves that you're an eternal being. You're an eternal, creature. Okay, not a creature. Being. You're an eternal being. Okay? And that you are eternal. And that materialism is actually a big lie. Why? And if you see all these mainstream articles, okay, talking about, how do you cope with, total nothingness after death, you have stuff like, like that. But it is very silly to be frightened of being dead, because there is no such thing as death. Death is an illusion. That's what it is. It's an illusion. Okay? I can talk about how death is an illusion as well, but, as well. And now we have the people who did, quote unquote, see nothingness at the death. First of all, there was a certain time before you actually die. Okay? And people don't get this, okay? There was a certain, you have experience. This is mostly happen within a couple seconds after death to minutes. So sometimes even tens of minutes, okay? You had, for example, you haven't had time for the soul to leave your body. Okay, there hasn't been enough time for a soul to leave your body. And I think people need to understand the difference between actually dying and passing out, okay? Actually dying and passing out, because passing out, will give you the illusion of nothing after death. That gives you the illusion that, and they have another question: if there's nothing after death, then what's the point of life? Well, if you watch this video, you'll know, unless you are an atheist who refuses to change his opinions, who refuses to listen and have an open mind, basically, there's no such thing. The point of life is evolving, okay? Expanding your consciousness, expanding your, evolving, obtaining higher consciousness, okay? Not devolving, evolving. That's the whole point of life, okay? Serving you and serving the collective. That's basically the whole point of life. Serving you and serving the collective. And that, is it this? Soul contracts, and of course, what happened before the Big Bang. Okay? And death is not eternal, as death is just a illusion, and, life is eternal. Life is eternal. Okay, that's what it is. Life is eternal. Okay? Death is only the end of your character. Okay? You have an eternal personality, and of course, you have a temporary personality. All of us are a temporary personality, okay? And once we die, this personality will be still stored in subconscious, but it will not be necessary for the next life. It will not be necessary for your next life. It will be completely unnecessary. It will be completely unnecessary for your next life. Therefore, you won't need to remember it, which is why you don't remember your past lives. I'll talk about a video about that as well. Same thing with other things as well. Okay. So yeah. Well, if you have wanted this video, of course, definitely give this video a like. Definitely have sub. Save you of any of the other video game theory videos. And, of course, watch the whole playlist. As well, there's a whole playlist as well for videos. I believe there's 3 videos released in February and a couple released in March. And there'll be a couple released in April. And yeah, that's basically it about this video, the nothingness paradox. Okay? Because there wasn't really much to talk about, okay? And we all know, the decline in traditional, mainstream religion, the decline of mainstream religion. The whole thing of nothingness after death really proves that there's a false dichotomy, of course, among us. There's a false dichotomy among us. There's a false dichotomy in this world. And, of course, there was a third option that most people don't want to pick, which is spirituality. There's no, as well. Okay. So, yeah. Basically, this is it for the video. So, basically, if you like this video, definitely like it. If you like it, subscribe. And basically, one day we'll do our first live stream. And, of course, we'll make it about... I'll have to think of the topic to talk about. So, that's basically about this video. Goodbye.